Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. Parliament, Constitution, bills, politician, politics. You see, some of these topics could be actually boring. Some of these topics are things that people wouldn't want to see. No sensationalism, no Hindu Muslims, no riots, no fights, nothing to get entertained about. But then, information is empowerment. I sit there in my room, in my chair, talking to you every night to ensure that that piece of information reaches you. That piece of information about our democracy, about our country, that can help, that can make a difference, that can empower you. That can empower you to ask questions, that can empower you to understand where our democracy is going. And that's what Editorial is all about. Watch a few of my editorial that I've done in 2023 and I'll see you 2024. The point that I want to make through this editorial is that do not expect good governance, do not expect fair governance, do not expect efficient governance till such time that you learn to get service out of your government. A bad manager will have a bad team, and that bad team will be an inefficient team. You are the manager of your country. You appoint your team by giving your votes. You appoint your team by asking questions. You appoint your team by understanding what your team is doing, what your team is delivering, whether your team is delivering or not delivering. You need to understand that. If you sleep in the office and you let your team deliver what they want and do what they want, finally, what is going to happen is you are going to get an inefficient team that will take you for granted. And that's exactly what has happened with Indian politics. Let me try and tell you why I am talking about MGNREGA and why I constantly talk about MGNREGA to you. You see, we are not a nation, we are not a welfare nation. We are not a nation that takes care of our unemployed or takes care of our disabled people or takes care of, we are not that kind of nation. We don't have disabled allowance. We don't have unemployment allowance. We don't take care of all that. The only thing we do is we have an employment guarantee scheme, which is MGNREGA, for rural employment especially, where rural people, farm workers, farmers, small farmers, farm workers can at least make enough money to eat. I have said this in many of my editorials that some of their children, the only meal they have is their midday meal in school, and I have done a complete report on midday meals. Please have a look at it. I'm going to attach that in this editorial. So, a lot of them eat rice and water. Now, these people depend on MGNREGA and the wages that they get from MGNREGA to have their 2 square meals. It's not about luxury. It is about livelihood. It is the effort to live. You see, the court had given the rights to decide regarding the suspension of Eknath Shinde faction and their MLAs. Okay, court had asked the speaker to take a decision on that. And court had given a reasonable time. Supreme Court, Chief Justice of India, had given that reasonable time to a speaker. The speaker sat on it. Speaker didn't take any steps. Wasn't that, forget about the Supreme Court, wasn't that cheating the democracy? He's supposed to be an unbiased decision maker here. He's supposed to act judge, unbiased, apolitical. Did he do that? Question number 1. Question number 2. The Supreme Court had to say, abide by the dignity of the Supreme Court. Abide by the dignity of the Supreme Court. Humne bola at least abide by our dignity is what the Supreme Court is pleading. Literally. To my layman's mind, this is what it sounded to me. Why is the speaker not taking decision? Is it because it will harm him politically? It will harm his political party? If that's the case, then how does he call himself a speaker? How does he call himself a speaker? How can he be apolitical? So how is it wrong when people say, oh, मेरा mic बंद होता है, opposition says, मेरे को हमको बोलने नहीं देता है, हमारा mic बंद होता है. How are they wrong? Aren't these all adding is my question. And if these are all adding, then where are we headed to? Shiva Sena broke, and a part of them, they formed, 2/3 of them, they formed the actual Shiva Sena. They took Shiva Sena from Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, and they formed, Eknath Shinde formed a Shiva Sena. And I will tell you the starting of the story. The starting of the story is where a gentleman called Pratap Sarnaik, he is from Thane. Pratap Sarnaik, he had written a letter to Uddhav Thackeray. Pratap Sarnaik, MLA, writing a letter to his party president and all the working president, that is the working chief of the party, Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, and also the then chief minister of Maharashtra, not saying that, listen, I think we should align with the other party because we can make Maharashtra grow better. Not saying that I want to align with the other party or I think our party should align with the other party because our ideologies match. Not saying that, no, that's not what he said. I'll tell you, I'll just read out what he said in his letter. He said, my personal opinion is that it is better to be aligned with Narendra Modi ji. Many activists feel that this will at least stop the unnecessary harassment of Pratap Sarnaik, Anil Parab, Ravindra Vaikar and their colleagues and their families. We are being harassed unnecessarily by the central investigating agencies. When there is no crime or wrongdoing, bail was granted in one case, then immediately and deliberately involved in another case. This is the man who jumped from Shiva Sena or whatever, the Mahavikas Aghadi Shiva Sena, and went to Assam, and rest the story, one other person. See, he jumped the political party, that is ठीक है, if he has a point to do. He jumped because he felt that, and that is what he wrote in his June 20th letter to Uddhav Thackeray. Because he wrote saying that, listen, we are being troubled. Let us go and join Narendra Modi ji. Why? Then we will not be troubled. And you know what? Lo and behold, after that nothing happened to him. No ED, no search, nothing. Everything is fine. I asked the same question to the Home Ministry. The Home Minister visited the state at least. To that extent, he has at least visited that state. Why wasn't he made aware? Why wasn't he made aware that there was an incident like this that took place? Why was he not made aware? And if he was made aware, then the question is the same. Why didn't he act? Why didn't he talk about it? And finally, the chief minister of that state. I hear some reports in ANI that he too heard this incident recently. He too heard about this incident recently. I am appalled. We are more bothered about PMLA cases, tax evasion and so on and so forth. We are not bothered about our girls being stripped naked and paraded on the streets. Where is our priority and our sense of justice? The question I want to ask this government is, we are trying to give more powers to ED, we are trying to give more powers to IT, we are talking about CBI. Have we spoken anything about protecting our women? Do we have a squad in India that is dedicated to protect our women? Is there a discussion or debate about protecting our women? How come ED, IT, financial frauds are so important, so important than protecting our women and child? Where is our priority and sense of justice? In one case where a girl is gang raped, her child is murdered, her family is murdered, and those convicts are let out under the remission policy. And in one case, and rightly so, rightly so, in Nirbhaya's case, where we caught the convict and we hung them, rightly so. But my point is, how are these two cases different? What is the Supreme Court reserving its judgment for? What are we even What are we even debating? If hanging Nirbhaya rapist was right, hanging or whatever, life imprisonment in this case of Bilkis Banu rapist is also correct. How can they be two different? As a layman, I do not understand this. This logic, I just don't get it. And that's why it took me a lot of time to even talk about this. I don't get this. Both are the same. Two children of India were raped, brutally raped, both of them. In one case, her family was killed in front of her. One group of rapists gets hung and the other group of rapists is set free. And our courts are deliberating. Is it correct? Was it justice? What is the law? And so on and so forth. We are inspecting records. I just didn't get this. I just don't get it. I'm sure the Honorable Court has a reason. I'm sure the Honorable Court knows what they are doing, but I don't. As a layman, I don't. The Chief Justice spoke very well, which he normally does. He is a very well articulated person. But how much of this actually happens? How much of this is actually executed on ground? What happens to such judges who says, "Mera kutta gum gaya"? I remember one politician in Uttar Pradesh had sent police searching for his buffaloes. I remember that. And now the judge. And that's my point. These are the pillars of democracy. And this is how they're utilizing democracy. This is how they're utilizing democracy. The reason I want to tell this story is not to put down this judge, or that's not my intention, or to put down the judiciary. That's definitely not my intention. The reason I'm telling you this story is because till such time that you and I do not understand our rights, our powers, the fact that we are the taxpayers, these are supposed to be people serving us, protecting us, not ruling us. Till such time that we don't understand it, this is going to only increase in our country. A way an IAS officer, an administrative officer treats a person who comes to visit him is like he's treating a servant. Most often than not, he doesn't even have the courtesy to make a person sit in front of him. I have seen police officers, when they walk into a lift, they don't allow others to get into that lift. They go. I have seen places where there are walkways, where there are staircases, where only police officers can walk, others cannot. When is this going to end? And you know what? And all these people are paid by us. Like I told you, this particular topic is pretty close to my heart. It is close to my heart is because I saw a former colleague, late Shri Vinod Dua, going through hell, emotionally, personally, physically. You know, when something he said during the pandemic in our channel was challenged, there were FIRs filed against him in Delhi, there were FIRs filed against him in Himachal Pradesh, there were FIR filed against him, and there were cops that were sent to his house. I know what it means when you are called a Desh Drohi. That is what sedition means. A Desh Drohi. A man, a Padma Shri, a person who I know for a fact was a complete patriot. Every word he said for this country. Every statement he made was made to make this country a better place. He spoke for crores of people of this country. And he was called a Deshadrohi. And I know what he went through. I know personally, I know what he went through. We would speak almost every second day over the phone. And I know how elevated he was. When the same judge, U. Lalit, the same judge quashed the case. And we won the case. So, law is supposed to be for the betterment of you and me. It is supposed to ensure that there is no injustice done to you. That's what laws are. But then certain laws are used against your interest. Sedition is one of them. If a journalist is not allowed to criticize the policies of the government, if a journalist is not allowed to criticize the policies and the working of the Prime Minister, of the Prime Minister's office, of a particular minister, his department, if we are not allowed to criticize, then pray tell me, who is going to tell you that something is going wrong? The problem is, if the legislature makes a law, should that law be final and unquestionable, supreme law? Can a democracy function that way? That's the question. I think no. And I will tell you why. You see, in a parliament or in an assembly, it is the majority that passes a bill and converts that bill into an act. Once the bill is converted into an act, it becomes from a bill, it turns to be a law. So the majority creates a law. Now, if a majority thinks that, say for instance, Indian should only eat wheat, I'm giving an example, if Indian should only eat wheat, if the majority thinks, what about the minority who may want to eat rice? Democracy, mind you, is not majority religion. It is not. Democracy is where you have, of course, the majority keeps their views, but the minority's preferences and rights has also to be considered. So if you have lawmakers and the majority starts creating laws, then the minority has no say. So if the government that you vote into power doesn't come into power, the other government comes into power, then finally you have no say, you have nothing, you just live, you just take what is given to you. Your rights go away. That is when judiciary comes into play. That is when the courts come into play. That is when the Supreme Court comes into play. That's where you have the right to put up your case in front of the judiciary and say that while majority has taken a decision, but sir, ye humko takleef hota hai. Criticizing, body shaming or insulting a vice president, a person of Mr. Dhankar's age, stature, is wrong, absolutely wrong, and I am 100% with it. But we can't be selective in our outrage. We can't be selective in our outrage. That was wrong, Clown Prince was also wrong. What Mr. Narayan Rane did was also wrong. What Viduri did was also wrong. But they forget about suspension, they're not even questioned. While, we have a huge furor about these opposition guys who are videotaping and having fun. The point is, if you really think you want to solve this problem, let's draw a line today. Let's draw a line today, and from today onwards, let us be very clear that we will not cross our line. We will not allow our MPs to cross their line when they are talking about fellow MPs or politicians or constitutional authorities. I mean, you had Pragya Singh Thakur, who is an MP of Bharatiya Janata Party, revering the killer of the father of this nation, calling Godse a martyr. You had an MP. Was she punished? Was she suspended? Was she even reprimanded? Father of the nation is as revered as the vice president of the nation. So father of the nation, she said, did anything happen? And now we are asking for reprimandation or whatever. Suspend to hua hai, aur kya kar sakte ho? So here you are asking for reprimandation. The point is, like I said before, it's not about agreeing to whatever has happened. What I am saying is, let's draw a line today. Let's draw a line today and promise ourselves. Let's promise ourselves that we will learn to behave with respect. Let's commit this to ourselves. Let's commit this to ourselves starting today. So whether be it a BJP MP or be it a Congress MP, if somebody insults another person, another political colleague, adversary or whatever, reprimand him, punish him. Let's make that a law. That makes sense. Otherwise, हम करें तो ठीक, वो करे So, cardinal sin. This concept is somehow not going down my gullet.
Stay ahead with our cutting-edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.